Asabaro, Starfish Entertainment. But to me the beat. Me no one proof, me no one rule. Me just want do the music that is really cool. Me just want say this generation feel my groove. This generation feel my groove. Me just want pull up, me just want sing.
Let's welcome our next speaker. Our next speaker is, well, a Commonwealth champion. He was one-time UNESCO real-life hero. He's a young inspirational leader, one who is very passionate about inmates across the national territory, illustrating. In fact, he is driven by issues of our day-to-day lives in our communities. He's always there to provide solutions, to link up with young persons and make sure they change the world in which we live. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Christian Achaleke. A warm round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Christian Achaleke, and so part of my job is talking. So, but I'm going to make it quite snappy, but interesting. So I will choose to sit and stand as well. And so I just heard from very intelligent people who were first in class, who were best students, and I really used to wish I could be one of those. And my story is around not giving up. And someone told me some weeks ago that sometimes my story is good for both the most intelligent and those who are not intelligent. So I was born and raised in Fiango, Puma, and I sold Fiango to the highest place in the world because there was something I learned at some point. I've been last in class. So I know what it means to have 7 average, 5 average. I know what it means to be dismissed because you could not pass exams. And that was my story. And I was called fat fool, even though I was thin, by my dad, not because he hated me, but because he was hoping that I could become the best of me. So, growing up in Kiango, for those who know, we are known for faking, violence. So, fortunately or unfortunately, our own domain was violence. So I fought on the street. I know what it means to lose someone. Not because of ill health, but because you were stabbed, for example. So I know what it means to lose someone you know who was burnt alive. God. So it was different. But all of this taught me something. One of my last fights was we went to Alaska Street, for those who know, in Kuma, and we fought on the street. I with another group. Interesting. But it was a period for me to learn, because when I was in separate half year in Kuma, I failed the common trust. And I remember the day I went to look at the results in a neighbor's house who was an inspector. I could not find my name, and I asked him, Daddy, can you give me your lenses so that I could see my name? So there was no hope. And everyone thought I would not be able to get things done. I went to Form 1, first term was 5 average, then I did 6. And because I didn't pass common entrance, so I had to go to a school where the principal was the first school, was a new school, GSS Misala. And we used to go to the stream, they removed sand, that was manual level. They bought my first bicycle. So when I go to school, I rent bicycle, I don't go to class. And when going back home, I watch movie, game hall, then I get home. I never read nothing. And that was it. I could not pass exams. Then I had to repeat Form 2. When I repeated Form 2, a lot of things changed. My friends with whom were in school, they went ahead, and they were no longer my friends. Very difficult, and they look down. So that was the story of this young person called Christian Achaleke sitting in front of me today. And it's a story I've told right at the level of Her Majesty's Palace. And today I think people know about the story because of what happened after that. It's a journey. But in all of this I told myself I wasn't intelligent, what else would I do? So while I was in school, I discovered that I was talented when it comes to social activities, theater. Then in Diligent Bilingual Academy, when they'll give prize for best history, best mathematics, they'll give me best actor, best dancer. Now at least I had something to hold on to, right? And it was challenging because my dad was expecting not much because he knew I wasn't intelligent, but I could come home with a prize. Then I realized that I was becoming very popular in school. So the school, there was a 16 plus club for those who have 16 average and above. Then because of how good I was in theater and social activity, I was admitted into that club. So in a 16 average club, when I'm a 10 average, 11 average. My first 10 average was when I repeated from 2, the sub 10 average. So in that 16 plus club, I was taught how to do editing of video and a lot of things, and I did a lot of passion because that was the only thing which would give me joy. And gradually it took me from being with my friends who were fighting and doing crazy things gradually. Then when we were in Form 5, I remember so well, and I had this friend who stood behind the classroom in Form 5, and phone, he just had phone at that time, and they called him that, he was called PDD. PDD has been burnt alive. I remember that day, Bishop Bushu was visiting Kuma for the first time. When we left school, I went and saw PDD, and the whole, we used to call it Retu, and the payback. So the parents' houses in the off Street. Then I started asking myself. Now when I was writing GC, people were not hoping I should pass. But I struggled, I had 7 papers and a lot of C's. So I used to wish I would service. I went there and they turned me down because, poor grades. Then I went to Baptist Boyer. Now Baptist Boyer was a change because I got to a place where people were thinking differently. From where I was from, we pray for your wallet to fall so we pick it up. And I went to Baptist Boyer. My first week, I lost my wallet, and a guy, I'll call his name, Ngeve Eugene Dale, picked my wallet and gave it back to me 1 week later, and nothing was stolen from it. I picked it as my joint. While I was there, I still had my high blood. You hurt me, I hurt you back. Beat me, I beat you back. Then I got there, opposite students who were younger than me that I could beat up because I was doing bodybuilding, because we needed force to be in our groups. Then they would beat me and would stop free. Then I asked myself, what the world is this? Then I started learning that we need to be peaceful and forgiving people. With all the strength I had, I used to give my body to be pumped. But on this faithful day, I used to dance in school, I used to be known. And an opposite student called me and said, Christian, he came and said, you should bow, and I bowed. And I had a hand of my occiput. And he hit me, and that changed my story. I was very powerful, I could beat up a lot of people, but just a hand, and it changed my life. I passed out, started having complications, from nerves to many other things. My eyes, I was in the hospital. And I remember I was a chaplain, Pastor Mola, came and asked me, Christian, what do we do to this guy? I want to dismiss him because our principal there was very good at the dismiss you go to GC, but do not write GC. And I said they should forgive him. Now, this is me, I grew up knowing that I have to fight back. And I forgave him. I was home for the whole second term. He taught me something in life. Now, before I left from 5, I started doing this acting a lot. And we got to HIV. I heard Prof talk about that. I used to do theater for HIV. And lovely, volunteering, doing it with my passion because I could not pass exams. So the one thing which made me happy is when people smile, right? And I could do it with all of my heart. Then I realized that I could not pass the pool. So I went to University of Boya, and my dad told me, why don't you do Biaka? And I said, I cannot do Biaka because I'm not stable. I'll pull a syringe and I'll lock you up because I'll pull and forget to lock you up. And my dad was like, this child. So I went to Ruby, struggling. My first year I had 1.8. My first semester, 1.8 GPA, so which was failed. And I struggled the second semester, I managed 2, and it was crazy. And in all of that, I graduated with a 10th class. But I had one of the best citations in my batch. So apart from theater and talking about people's problems, I discovered I could do research. And that became part of my strength. Because I remember my supervisor told me, Christian, someone did this work for you. But in 2008, I started writing my first book. It was called Read and Read Longer. And I could pass exams, and I could write a book. And when I talk about it to my dad, and he calls me fatful and insults me, and many others. It didn't break me because I knew how much he loved me. And I told myself that I need to defend who I am. And I kept believing in people. Doctor talked about mentors. I met people who told me, Christian, you don't fail because you are not intelligent. But because you don't read, and because you spend time thinking about other things. So I'm going to teach you how to harness this energy. And this person is called Mr. Emmanuel Sai. Today, I work with world-class people and been invited by Her Majesty the Queen and world leaders and everything for personal private dinners and everything because of someone who taught me something. You can be different. It's not about your past. At some point I tell I'll be priest. Because when I knew God, I realized He could take me somewhere. Especially I'll become a priest. Because of the thing which happened in Baptist Boya, I knew that man can die at any time. So I better serve God in one way or other. But my life did not stop there. In the university, I left with that GPA. Then I went to Yaoundé, University of Yaoundé 1. Very challenging. Now my dad was very disappointed because I refused. I would not go to Biaka. If I'm not able to pass exams, then how will I write competitive exam and pass? Then I went to Yaoundé to do my master's degree in work. I knew I would not pass. I just went there to spend time, to pass time. But the organization I used to volunteer for, local youth corner as it was called, I grew up in it and it taught me things. In 2012, I did my first travel. I went to Nigeria. It was not funded. I told my dad that, Daddy, there's this thing in Nigeria, we need to fly. My dad said, you are crazy. What are you going to do? So I begged my elder sister and they paid for that flight and I entered the plane for my first time. And when I sat, I said, wow, plane, wow. Kumba, where we are from, bushfire is a big thing, right? So I was like, okay, this is bush, I'm falling like this, it's Nigeria. But when I went there was a meeting of this sort and we had amazing speakers and someone spoke, Kingsley Tibangwa, and I went back and I said, I cannot sleep. This guy has really inspired me. From a barber to a multi-millionaire, I was like, okay, this is no long reach, this is no marketing, but this is someone living people's life and is making it. Then I was given an opportunity to speak there. And I said a few words. And the last day we were about to leave, an Aja, a Muslim woman, greeted me and held my hands and said, Christian, you're going to be a big person. Few people have told me that in my life. Many people made me feel because I could not pass exam I was worst. Many people made me understand because I could not have a second class or a first class means I'm not worthy. But that lady spoke into my heart. And from that day, it gave me a new dimension. And I grew from 1 country to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to my 50th country with over 280 travel times. I asked myself, if I traveled to the US, like my parents said, who would I have been? The nurse who was not happy? Or what? Now, this very not knowledgeable, someone who could not pass exams, and I used to tell my parents I would become a teacher. And my dad would ask me, why don't you become a teacher with one brain? And I said it had to happen. But behold, I started teaching in university without having a PhD. And today, I'm solicited by universities across the world to serve as advisory board. Now this was because I believed in myself, and I said, just like the doctor said, believe in the youth. When I looked at my life, the violence and everything, and I told myself my mission is going to be to end violence. Now it might only lead to way, but by doing something. And I started by doing activity, training young people. I would spend money. I go to this conference, workshop, and it seemed as if I was crazy. But some people were seeing because I was very young. And in 2014, there was this call by the state and the Commonwealth. They want to celebrate young people. They want to give them diplomatic roles to serve. Now, I said I would not apply because I knew how things work in the country. Just like the doctor was saying, you need to bribe, you need to do this and everything. I said I would not apply. And deadline passed. And one of my mentors told me, no, Christian, go for it. You know, you're young, you're doing this good work, and you're articulate. And then I went to Minrex, and I dropped my file after deadline. And the woman asked me, what's the price? I said, no, director asked me to come and drop it. And she collected that file. And behold, 2 months later, I was with my sister in a house in Yaoundé, Tantam. We were cooking behind, and my phone rang on Wednesday. And said, Christian, they're calling me for an interview later on a Friday. I've never been for an interview before. I've never applied for a job before because I was so afraid if I apply I will not get it because I couldn't pass exams. So I went for that interview. The lesson in this, it's about being truthful, right? I went for the interview. I didn't know a lot. And they asked me a lot of questions. My first time to see big people, you know, in the room, director, ministers and everything. It was frightful. But they asked me a question about the national youth policy, which I didn't know. And I told them, I'm sorry, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. That was my jackpot, that was my ticket. And I got that role. 2014, they started calling me His Excellency. Wow. Yeah, good boy. You know, when I come home, there was no money to eat. So I wear suits, I was at Minrex. When I go home, my dad would insult me, you wear suits and no money. And you know, African family, right? You need to put something on the table. But it was very challenging. I believed in myself. I could give in a lot. Even in the ministry, I would carry chairs. Even when I'm called the expert, the big name, but I do it low. And one day, one of my directors, sub-directors called me and said, Christian, why do you do things this way? And I told her, Fiango, where we are from, even when your father is a millionaire, you are also a Pakoro child. Because if you want to claim, someone snatches from you. And I learned that lesson to stay down and keep doing what I know how to do. And this woman took me to church every day for novena and taught me Christ in a different way. Because I was afraid when I was appointed, and I saw my spiritual director, Father Peter, and I said, Father, I've heard in Cameroon if you become a big man, you have to enter something. So I want to allow this thing and stay in my little corner. And Father told me you could make a difference. In that role, if it was money, I would have failed. But I focused on working and serving. And my trips increased. And when I sat in the ministry, I saw everyone around me who did, diplomacy. Very smart, from very good homes. But what did they lack? Capacity. I was sitting there, I was writing articles. I became keynote speaker from 2015. From 2015, I've never applied for a conference. I was keynote speaker, and I travel sometimes 4 times a month to be keynote speaker. From Westminster Abbey, which is the church where Her Majesty attends, to the United Nations, to the White House Summit on Counter-Violent Extremism, and I can name them. And what is different in this is that I learned that it's not about titles, it's about capacity. That was what made the difference. And I focused on that, and I built on the capacity. In 2016, the first time I saw my dad very proud, he had been so worried that this child is failing, doing something which they have never seen before, because people need to become teachers, doctors, lawyers. And he's from nowhere. People used to confuse my name and think I'm the child of Achaleke Christian. I didn't even know him. My father is there in Fiambo, he was there in Fiambo Kumba, the man is alive. But in Yambi, I believe to myself. In 2016, I had a big call from the Commonwealth Secretariat, and they said, you've been doing work with prisoners, and we think that your work has been identified as one of the best works, and we're inviting you to London. I did not know what had to happen, and I traveled to London. We were 3 of us, and they said, oh, you're best in Africa. I said, wow, nice. 2 days before, they prepared us so much, how to speak, how you have to genuflect and all that. I said, but what is happening? Behold, Her Majesty the Queen of England was receiving us in her VIP room. Now, something which I don't know if it happens every day, but it happened to me. And when I turned and looked back, I saw my 4 average, 5 average, 6 average, and I was like, okay, we're here now. But the lesson I learned was that do what you know how to do and give in your best. And let your past not scare you, and let it inspire you. And my brand was peace, because I grew in Fiambo Kumba, and when I was speaking about conflict, violence, I didn't read from any book, besides like reading. And when I spoke in this amazing summit, and President Barack Obama, in his reply, said, I've listened from young people who talk violence and they didn't read from books. It was amazing to be quoted. And when we went and we were received by Her Majesty the Queen, I was told I was named the most influential young person in the Commonwealth, called the Commonwealth Young Person of the Year, and it comes with a financial cash prize, and I was received on BBC Focus on Africa as guest in London. And I came back home, guess what? My dad had that photo and was showing everyone, this is my son, the ambassador. The lesson I learned in this is, if your parents are trying to pull you to a path, do not quarrel with them. Do not argue with them. They love you, but try to prove them not wrong, but prove them that you're better at what you know how to do. And that was it. And the journey moved from there, and I saw myself becoming an expert when it comes to peace and security. I was invited to work as part of the team to develop a UN Security Council resolution. It is something which does not happen every day. And from there, I want to share a dimension when it comes to let your misfortune seem like your blessing. This is it. With my 2.4 GPA, I was able to get a scholarship, the Children's Scholarship, to study in the UK. Now, I'm a very dull student. And all the universities turned me down. SOA said no, we cannot receive you. Birmingham said no, Leicester said no. Because your result does not merit you to get admission in a university. By that time, I had published in one of the biggest newspapers in the world my article. When the shootings happened in the US, I published and appeared. And when I went to the UK, my director at the Commonwealth Secretariat, because I was a consultant then they said, Christian, how come you're not giving admission? Did you tell them who you were? I said, well, I said, tell them about your professional work. Then I did one page and put links of my interview, BBC and everything, and I sent. Behold, 3 days later, all the universities gave me admission. I traveled to the UK. Behold, my university spoke about me almost every time. Now, on this fateful day, I was called and I was told the palace wants me to speak at Westminster Abbey. The Queen will be there, from James Bond to, you can think, the mightiest in British system and heads of state and everything. And then our Prime Minister now was the Minister in charge of Commonwealth, and he was there. And I was told I was going to carry the golden stick of Her Majesty the Queen and march in front of her. It was amazing. And I was told that she expected I wear their turban, because I always dress in that in my international turban. So, interestingly enough, the night of the 14th of February, which was about 1 month to that event, I had an accident in my room. I slipped in my bag and I fell and I hit my head. You see, this car. A lot of people thought this car that came from Fiambo fighting. No, it was in my room. And I hit my head and I passed out and I was taken to the emergency ward and I was told that I cannot carry weight. And I was like, whoa, this big plan is gone. Because the golden staff is very heavy. Now, because of the surgery and the staff, it could not work. It was just a few months after. And I came to discover that particles were left in my head. It's like my dear sister was talking. And guess what? Palace told me, Christian, they don't want to let you go. Can you be one of the keynote speakers at this event? Now, I would have said my village people were behind here, right? And the baby almost died, right? But I believed, and I was told, you will not carry the thing any longer. You're going to speak. Speaking in front of whom? In front of Her Majesty and everyone in the family. I was doing practice with the Prime Minister of Malta. We practiced. And they told me to talk about your story, your journey, your work. That stage, the person before me was Malala Yousafzai, and the person after me was Anthony Joshua. That's to tell you how important that stage is to speak up. And I spoke, and my speech was taken and used in schools to inspire children in primary schools. That's the guy who pass exams. I didn't work for a lot of time, but my life became a life of recognitions and awards, from the Books of the Peace Prize to Black Person of the Year in Spain to my regalia, which I used in Spain, was taken and is currently being prepared to be put to the African Museum in Madrid, and many others, to being required or requested to serve as advisory board member for the Dela Institute, University of Dalhousie, and you can name them. But in all of this, I learned that never give up. Let your past inspire you. Let your past, be it you were raped, be it you were hurt, be it you were given heartbreak whatsoever, let it inspire you to create. Because I created. It seems like all of this came from nothing, but let me tell you two of the things I do. The organization I was given to lead, locally called where I was a volunteer, I told myself I'm not applying for any job. I was good, I could work for UN, I could work for anywhere. And I said, let me build. No staff was paid in 2013. As we speak today, we are paying 23 staff. As we speak today, we grew from no office to one head office in Yaoundé, one in the far north, one in Goya, and now we are talking about Mega. We grew from grants of $500, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I told myself I had to be, and that's why maybe we celebrate the work we do. When I look back at my friends who went to prison, many of them in Kumba, when I went to Kumba prison, and I said we need to change this, I designed a program called Prisonpreneurship. It has been named by UNDP as one of the best rehab programs globally, where we provide alternatives for inmates. We set up machines and everything, but we're not doing it because we wanted to show off like what I see people do, but to change, not as humanitarians, but as peace builders. And today as we speak, we have an inmate after 16 years of prison. He was given 135 years in prison for 7 counts. 16 years, we worked with him for 4 years, and today as we speak, he's in Yaoundé, he owns his own business and has 3 apprentices. Let's praise the Lord for that. Michael is an award-winning entrepreneur from 16 years in prison. He had not seen many roads being tagged. He didn't know what the phone was really looking like when he was in prison. But Michael today has apprentices, and Michael has been in the spotlight on BBC and others. I told myself from my story I could make others who have difficult stories to become better people. Then in the far north, we noticed that because of Boko Haram, children, young girls were being used. When I went there, and I saw these children sleeping on the floor, nothing. People go to orphanages every day, give a lot of money and all of that. And I asked myself, have they seen these? The scorching sun, no clothes, hunger, the soil could not produce. Then I came to this place and I saw them. And the man told me, Christian, some of my children have been used by Boko Haram as suicide bombers, and I've worked in hotspots in the world. I work in the most difficult places, so I love working in boom, boom, boom. That's my work. The more difficult, the best for us. I work with one of those who orchestrated the bombing in Norway. It was my case. We slept in the same bed in New York. So you can know how much I guilty when it comes to bad people. But because I had been down that road somehow. In the far north, when I saw this, I heard internationals are giving mats and clothes and these and these. And I said, I will not talk about school, I will start school. Then I started a school called the Salam Initiative, which was to give free school for this kind of children, and not just learning ABC, mental health support, and every other support you can think, the kind of school which we were not giving. And we started the process. No money, no roof. We started under the sun, then I begged my sisters canopy. Canopy was too hot, then they could not study, then the community helped us to build a grass herd. Then I went to the US, I went to Dollar Tree, I took $300, I bought books, and I came to Cameroon and we started the school. As we speak, we have 150 of children in this school. Our first batch graduated into formal school because we work with you and send you into formal school. These are children who have lost their parents, have lost a lot. 20 of them went into formal school, and in the school they went to, our children were among the best 10. The 18 average of that school was from our program. Now to round it up, as I said, let my story not make you feel not to pass exam is a good thing. Please work hard to pass exams. But if you cannot pass, believe in your gift. I believed in my talent. And when I saw myself working close with Prince Harry, it's a close team, it was unimaginable. Because I couldn't pass exam and I could advise world presidents, leaders, and others. Then he taught me one thing. You are never small to make a difference. Start from somewhere, and you're going to make it in a way which no other person will believe, but only you. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
This is perfect.